Hi and welcome, Todd Cahill. You're listening to the It's Not Out There, but It's In You podcast, where on this podcast we talk all about the battles that we all face in our life and really how the battles that we face affect us and how we can think differently about each battle and start redefining its meaning so we can start relinquishing its power over us. See, it's a choice you have to make every day to become the best you. So we want to help you return to the battle at hand, the issues that you face, redefine what their meanings are, and then repeat the cycle over and over in order to keep winning the battle that you face. So stay tuned. So glad you're here. Thanks for listening. Hi and welcome, Todd Cahill here, and you're listening to the podcast It's Not Out There, It's In You, and I'm so excited to share today with you. If you're listening for the first time, thank you so much, and if you can hit the subscribe button and take 30 seconds out of your busy day to rate this podcast, that would be so awesome, and I would really, really appreciate it. I am so excited to dive into one of the battles today. On this podcast, we talk a lot about kicking your own ass and winning. And, you know, it is all about winning, like Tom Brady said, which is my favorite football player. He just likes to win. And I know you listening, you probably like to win. Winning is awesome. I know in losing, you learn. There's definitely a lot of lessons in losing. But how many of you out there are maybe tired of losing and you really want to start winning in your life? And that is definitely myself included in that. And the reason I wrote this book, You versus You, which comes out all over stores, February 19, retail, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, you can purchase it. You can actually pre-order it now if you go to www.youversusyoubook.com and really diving into the 12 battles. And today we're going to talk about the first battle. And I'm excited to talk about that because it's about your persona. So what is your persona? What does that mean? We're going to dive into that today and really the battle against our persona. And I like to start out with a quote here to get your mind thinking. Nathaniel Hawthorne said, "No man for any considerable period of time can wear one face to himself and another to the multitude without finally getting bewildered as to which may be the truth." Isn't that true? So I want to dive into this really quick about this battle, how we can return to it, redefine it, and repeat it through the choices that we have to make every day to become the best you. And my point of this podcast is really, of course, myself and you. I want to really share how to become the best you. And isn't that what life is all about? It's like, yes, we're going to fail, and yes, we're going to go through some hard times, and we're going to learn so much about ourselves through the hard times. And life is a battle, isn't it? As you look at your own life, if you look at your finances, if you look at your relationships, if you look at your knowledge, if you look at so many different aspects of our life that we battle with, you know, we have to conquer a lot in our life. And of course, there's so much that we need to know. There's so much that we need to understand. And that's why I really, first of all, wrote the book and also now communicating my message through podcasts, social media. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook and et cetera, et cetera. But I'm excited to, like I said, dive into this and talk about you versus your persona. You know, I posted a picture on social media of me at the gym. How many of you ever done this? You post a picture of yourself on social media and you probably took 4 photos, 5 photos, 6, 7, 8, whatever one. And of course, we all try to choose the best one. And there is the X Pro 2 or the Lo-Fi filter to get the aesthetic right. And then, you take 3 minutes, 5 minutes to think how you wanted to caption, the words that you're going to be sharing. And then you publish it on your social media. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But again, we're on social media, we're portraying ourselves as maybe something better than we are, or maybe we look better than we really do. And when was the last photo you posted on your social networks? How many outtakes? How many outtakes were there? How many minutes did you spend with the filters? I was just with my wife yesterday and I posted a picture. And believe me, I'm guilty of this too. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, but I just want to bring to your, just your awareness that we're all guilty of it, right? And even just yesterday, like my wife buys like a filter and that we use a specific one or she uses a specific one. And sometimes you see that on Instagram and influencers, they all have like really beautiful pictures, right? And that's how you get more followers, right? That's literally what they teach you on Instagram is how to get more followers is make sure you're posting beautiful pictures because you're competing. The average person out there probably has 800 or 900 minimum people that they're following. So you're always competing against, so many different people on that platform. So you got to nail the picture. You got to get it right. You got to get a perfect angle. You have to write the perfect caption. You have to get people's attention. Now, I'm not trying to shame you. Again, like I said, we all do it. And it's well known, but seldom discussed reality that there is you and then there's the edited persona that you present to the world. You know the one, right? The more acceptable, more on trend, more clever, more look at me living my best life now, right? And I think that is the problem with social media. We're going to dive into what it would be like if you actually shared the truth, not just you're always living your best life, but all of the troubles, the tribulations and of course the triumphs, right? A lot of people love to celebrate triumphs on social media, whether it's a new job, whether it's a new relationship, you're in a relationship status, which obviously is a lot of so much excitement behind that. But what if there was just this time where you shared maybe a selfie and if you're a woman, you didn't have your makeup on at all, and maybe you're just in your robe and you didn't put a filter on it and you put a caption, this is real life, most of my life, right? You're not getting dressed up and getting the makeup on all the time, right? But it looks like that if we looked at your pictures, all the professional pictures that are done and it looks like your life is just, especially if you're a mommy or dad, it's just like, geez, where are their kids? I mean, it always looks like they're at a professional photo shoot all the time, right? So I spend a lot of time thinking about what I do put out into the world. And I hope you do too. And I rationalize this because I have the privilege of getting to lead thousands of people each week and therefore know that they're looking both at me and to me. And I've been in that position for a while. And I've been in that position of leadership. And I've been in that, especially in the world of what's called relationship marketing, just saying that, I mean, relationship marketing, like I have to not only build a relationship, but I have to portray for the past 15 years that I'm just a stellar leader, that I have a stellar marriage, and that I have a stellar relationship with my children, and I'm just a great guy, and I'm just almost like perfect, like I'm just a perfect person, because in leadership, it's influence. So in this kind of business, that's what people look at. Now, I'm not saying that's true, and I'm not saying that that's the way it should be, because I don't agree with that at all. And I believe that the more vulnerable people are, and the more we get to know someone, even if they are, an influencer or a leader, or they have a big role in leadership. No leader obviously is perfect, even if they're leading thousands or hundreds or tens of thousands of people. Okay. So I want to share things that are relevant and motivating, obviously on my social media, words of affirmation, insights into how being driven leads to success, and glimpses into my life that show what I'm doing and how I juggle it all. I do want people to see that if I'm doing it, so can they. It's helpful, harmless, or is it? I think to win the battle, and I want you to really listen to this, between you and your persona, to win the battle, it takes first and foremost telling yourself the truth about you. So I want to give you a quick history of the internet and social media for the sake of, the background. The World Wide Web, okay, this is interesting, officially became a thing in 1991. And by the year 2000, the internet was everywhere. Around 100 million people had access to the internet, and it became quite common for people to be engaged socially online. Of course, back then, it looked at as an old hobby at best, right? Back in 1991, the mid-90s, still more and more people began to utilize chat rooms for making friends, dating, and discussing topics that they wanted to talk about. Twitter. Not only would the internet fundamentally change the world as we knew it, but the introduction of social networking would soon embed itself into our culture. Now, I'm sure everyone that's listening to this podcast right now is you might have found my podcast on social media. And there's so many good aspects of social media. Don't get me wrong. I love social media. I don't live on social media, but I have made a living on social media for many years now. When I'm getting clients for my one-on-one coaching, for promoting things, for adding value, for also putting great information out there that's really inspiring and encouraging, and even obviously to sell my book. Right? It is so. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with social media, but let's dive more into social media, shall we? The first surge of social media came in 2003 with MySpace. You all remember MySpace? I was on it for a minute. I can't even hardly remember. All I remember is I think I was in my early 20s and it was such a big deal, but I didn't even know how to really work that back then. And LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn, hey, I'm all for LinkedIn. I think it's cool, especially if you're in the business background. And then after those two, it was followed by Facebook in 2004, Twitter in 2006, and Instagram in 2010, and Snapchat in 2012. Today, there are countless more. One recent report said the average person has 5 social media accounts and spends 1 hour and 40 minutes each day browsing their networks. And I even have a thing on my phone to remind me now how much screen time that I'm actually looking to create that awareness. Like, am I spending too much time looking and browsing? Because obviously we want to live our life. We don't want to just be on our phone. So an hour and 40 minutes each day is on average that people are spending on their social networks. In-depth interviews with these users reported that 80% feel deceived by what others are posting. 80% are feeling they're deceived on what others are posting on social media, and 60% feel it has impacted their self-esteem in a negative way. And I'm absolutely going to be real with that because, look, I could just speak from personal experience. Sometimes I'm on social media, and I would say a lot, actually, and this is just between me and you, right, that I see other, let's say, authors, New York Times bestselling authors, people that are quote unquote living the kind of life that I want to live, and I'm looking at my own goals and my situation. I'm like, oh, it almost like I have to go down a dark, like it puts me in a dark spot. And I hate that feeling. And you want to be so happy for people and, oh, that's amazing. But let's be honest, it definitely can put us in a very negative spot where we're seeing so many other people just so successful, as it seems, from what they're posting, from what they're sharing, from what they're doing. But at the same time, it also can be very inspiring, okay? Because I'm also been very inspired by people that I look up to and people that I want to emulate and people that I really respect in the industry that I'm in. So I think it's safe to say that most narratives shared and portrayed on social media are positive and celebratory. It's natural to want to show the upside of life, right? Isn't it? Of course, on Facebook, when we first all got on Facebook, it was more like, what are you doing now? And, oh, cool, Todd's at the movies, and, Sally's, at a restaurant having fun with her beautiful family. Oh, there's Sally's daughter. Oh, she just had a baby. Oh, that's so cute, right? So it's natural to want to show that. It's natural to want to share and celebrate and obviously Facebook friends and family to network. But it really has become almost like a business now, Facebook and Instagram. So, just portraying that, is not what a lot of people are doing, anymore. To show people the good things going on in our lives is obviously what we're doing, but there's certainly enough depressing news out there already. But are we helping or hindering? What if the things we're projecting in the name of being highly connected are actually making us disconnected? And I think a lot of us feel that way. I think, for me personally, I think there's a disconnect where there's so much online, stuff happening where we're not in person. And, just on a side note, just from speaking from experience, when I'm sitting down at a Starbucks with a friend, with a family member, with a colleague, and I'm just having coffee and I'm just looking at their face and they're looking at we're just talking, there's nothing like that as opposed to me writing on a post or interacting on Facebook Messenger or DMing them on Instagram. Obviously, I think we all can come to the understanding that that is much better. But we live in such a busy life, right? The human race, we're always racing all over all the time. So are we really still having this interaction with people, right? So I don't know if you feel disconnected. I don't know if you want to get more connected, but while the advantages, right, of sharing life with others are many, the pull to win and keep the approval of others can grow with our following. Everyone feels different degrees of this pressure. And I really do too. Like, it's trying to keep up with the Joneses. Even on social media now, it's I see people with planes and Lamborghinis, and who knows if they're rented, who knows if they own them, right? It's a whole different world now. So it's not literally what your neighbor has, it's literally all of the people that you're following on social media have. So, the touch-ups and the articulate statements, I think, that are both inspiring and compelling. What is that? Is that damning, really the whole idea of this, what I'm talking about. Where do you fall? Where do you fall in all this? The concept of creating an illusion of a perfect life on social media has been around almost as long as social media itself. And by playing into it, I think we put an increasing demand on ourselves to live out the illusion that we've created in order to keep up the facade. Are we trying to avoid disappointing others? I think so. I think a lot of us are very, very concerned about, we don't want to disappoint others. We have we have to do this for our following. We got to write great stuff every single day. I mean, I'm an author, so I feel obligated to my following every single day to keep giving them more, keep giving them more. But it really takes a lot of time out of my schedule, and it takes a lot of time even away from my family. So what do we do about this, right? Are we trying to avoid disappointing ourselves? While the illusion might seem fun for a time, it feeds an unbalanced view of reality. Not only does this place a burden on our followers, who might begin to view their lives by comparison, like I talked about, as inadequate. Maybe we feel, we're doing such a great job that we're making our followers feel absolutely inadequate. Think about that. Have you ever thought about that concept, or that change of shift, or that shift of perspective? But it also places really a burden on us. The spirit of today's age, wrote Wally Phillips, seems to be, if you got it, flaunt it. If you do not, pretend. All of the personal battles we face, I see this as one of the toughest and most consistent. Winning this battle is more than being authentic or more real. If we're being honest, those terms have become cliched phrases we often use to sell credibility without proof, or to justify course actions. I think we got to go further beneath the mask, so we can not only see what's under there, but also figure out why we feel the need for a mask in the first place. Okay? Here's something funny. Have you guys ever heard of #real Instagram? It's actually a hashtag on Instagram that accompanies raw and unfiltered pictures. Check it out. Look it up. People use it when they post things that purposely don't align with their personal brand, and do it in order to pull back the curtain of perfection. So quick scroll right will show you a face without makeup, a fat roll, gray hair, cellulite, a messy living room, or an overdrawn bank account receipt. I laughed out loud the other day. I saw someone post themselves sitting there anxiously waiting for their wine delivery. These people are embracing who they are by owning what they're not, and it's liberating. And I really feel like you guys would agree with that. I think it's liberating to see the real parts of life that we all deal with, the fears, the worries, the bills that we get that maybe we don't know how we're going to pay it, but we're portraying ourselves out there like we're absolutely crushing business. And I understand. I'm not saying go do a GoFundMe account when you're broke or something and tell the world that you're broke. I'm not saying do that, but it is liberating to really not always try to flaunt and kind of fake it till you make it. And I hate that saying, and I think you do too. We don't want to fake it till we make it, okay? We, obviously we all want to be successful. We want to be significant. But think about this. What if you took pictures of your very, very worst moment and documented the downside of your life? What would it show? Maybe an argument with a significant other. That I haven't really seen that. Hey, just got an argument with my wife. We really fought hard. We yelled. We cried. Hopefully, we make up tonight with makeup sex. It's like, imagine that post. That would be cool. I should maybe do that next time I get in a fight with my wife. And yes, I do get in fights with my wife. And I'm not talking literally fights, but we have arguments, disputes, disagreements. I think anyone that's married that says they don't ever fight, either it's the most boring marriage in history, okay, like literally, like you guys don't even talk to each other. You're more just roommates, or you're lying. Okay, so but again, there's a good way to fight too. You don't always have to agree. There's no way, even if you were absolutely madly in love, there's no way that you're just not, or I'm sorry, you're always going to agree with your spouse. There's just no way, right? So what about sitting solo on the couch on a Friday night, and you're maybe depressed and lonely because you can't get a date that week, or you haven't dated in a while, or maybe you're afraid, maybe you have a skin issue, or maybe you're balding, or maybe you are insecure as a woman or a man, and you just are having the darndest time, with your confidence. Whatever it might be. What about the piles of laundry that are just piling up? Like right now, as we speak, I gotta do a ton of laundry tonight. I mean, it's just piles and piles everywhere. And if you were to come to my house, I don't think you would be too impressed right now. It's pretty, and I know my wife doesn't like that, and she is really neat, and I am not, and I've had to learn a lot about getting neater. I guess if that's a word. But just making sure that I clean up after myself, and making sure that, again, I'm not portraying myself on social media like I'm such a great husband, but, you come to our house, and that's her love language, is acts of service, and everything is all over the place. And to her, that's what a good leader is, okay? So what about your untweezed eyebrows, the frozen TV dinner thawing on your kitchen counter? There are parts of ourselves we want to see, and then there are other parts we initially hide. Why is it? Okay, why do we want to hide? Well, let's go to 0 to 100 and say we all suffer from narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. According to Psychology Today, individuals with that disorder exhibit an inflated sense of self-importance and lack of ability to emphasize with others. People with NPD believe they are superior or special, and often try to associate with other people they believe are unique or gifted in some way. This association enhances their self-esteem, which is typically fragile underneath the surface. People who have high self-esteem are often humble, whereas narcissists rarely are. Instead, they seek excessive admiration and attention in order to know that others think highly of them. And I just read that paragraph from actually my book, from You versus You. But before I go and give all of us a complex, like, am I narcissistic? Well, I have some narcissistic tendencies. That kind of sounds a lot like me. I don't have a lot of self-confidence, and I try to hide it. Okay, let's say you are. Okay, I'm not saying it's the worst thing ever here. Okay, but the point is, let's create some self-awareness here. On this podcast, let's kind of dive into this real quick, shall we? I should mention that displaying those characteristics hardly means that you suffer from NPD, okay, narcissistic personality disorder. In fact, we all have narcissistic tendencies. Like I said, I really do believe that we do. I mean, like I said, look at our social media. Count my selfies, count your selfies, right? I'm not saying that's narcissistic, but if they're all selfies, maybe it is. Like all of our personal traits, it isn't on all or nothing quality. Some aspects like confidence and self-sufficiency are healthy and adaptive, but, being diagnosed with the actual disorder would mean that you are on an extreme end of the narcissism spectrum, exhibiting toxic levels of vanity and entitlement, little interest in close relationships, and a fully explorative personality, among other things. Okay? You feel any better? Okay. Me too. So if it's not narcissism that's fueling our masquerade, maybe it's judgment. Are we scared of what people will think if they see our flaws? Listen to this. According to a 2015 survey, 789 teenagers in the United States, 40% reported pressure to only post content on their social media accounts that make them look good to others, and 39% said there was pressure to post content that will be popular and gets likes or comments. As if to say, they tie the number of likes on a picture, favorites of a tweet, or comments on a status to how they define who they are as people. How badly do you want to hug a teenager right now and tell them They don't need external recognition to fuel their self-esteem. That they are the same beautiful person inside and out, whether they have 0 likes, 10 likes, or 10,000 likes. When is the last time you hugged yourself and said these things? And I really, there's so many things I can dive into this, but just get my book, You versus You, and I really go into more details a lot about, you versus your persona. But I think right now, to redefine it, to be like, okay, how do I really redefine my perspective of, my battle with my own persona? Well, I think you really have to make a shift in your allegiance. You have to learn to love you more than the edited persona you've created. And what's interesting about this is I just saw a movie about this, I Feel Pretty. I think that's the name of it. Literally last night, and the actress is not one of my favorites, and it was a rental, and we're just like, whatever, let's just watch this, see if it's any good. And it actually ended up having a great message to it, because this actress she's a little overweight, and she doesn't have a lot of confidence, and all of a sudden, she wishes that she looked pretty, and, her dream is to work at a model agency. And I forget the actress name, she's a comedian, a lot of you would know her. And totally like hits her head, and then looks at a mirror and she sees herself differently. She sees herself as beautiful and in shape, and her body is just, to her, it's just incredible. And she walks around and she's just this full of energy and just like, very confident, not narcissistic, but just confident. It's almost like attractive, right? This personality, it's like, because she's like, she doesn't really care. Like, she doesn't give an F. Like, she just thinks she is great, and she was able to get these jobs and land her dreams, but everyone saw her the same, but she didn't see herself as the same. And everyone still liked her, even though she thought she looked different than everyone else saw her. Okay, and you got to see the movie. I think it's I Feel Pretty. And of course, there's some things that happen in it, but it has a really, really great message, and it really kind of motivated me. It really inspired me to be like, look, am I really thinking like, if I have a zit one day, should I not post a picture of myself? Or if my hair is a little messed up, or if I'm not really feeling the energy today to post, should I not post because I want to be my best self always for my audience, because I want to get more likes and comments, and that is most important to me? Is it really? I think you would get more comments and likes by saying, oh, shoot, I got 3 zits today. How about you? How's your day going? My day's not starting out right, but you know what? I feel pretty anyway. I feel handsome anyway, because that's just part of life, right? And I think we do need to learn to love ourselves more, and not just this edited version that either we're creating or the world's creating, or in your perspective, or what you think, you should be portraying out there. And I want to kind of wrap up here. And like I said, definitely get my book, because I go into more detail. I want you to understand, like, to really win this battle, to really repeat. So what are the choices that you and I need to really make to win this battle? I think it takes a concerted effort to stop spending time trying to impress others. I think we spend way too much time every single day impressing others, trying to, make people feel or make ourselves feel more important than maybe we really are. Hey, I'm so successful, and, I'm not going to really do any action in business, but I'm going to portray like I'm crushing it. I'm crushing life, but you're so depressed behind the scenes, and maybe you feel like you're not even productive, or you're not really doing the things that you're saying. Is that really helping your confidence by portraying yourself as something you're not? Of course it's not. It actually is making you probably sick to your stomach on a daily basis. Maybe not literally, but you know what I'm talking about. So in order to really win this battle, it really does take a concerted effort to stop spending time trying to impress others, and instead spend it doing the things you are meant to do, the things that move you, the things that you're passionate about, the things that you really, stop being insecure and go after it. Because yes, we're all going to feel insecure at certain times in our life. I think a lot of insecurity comes from not knowing, a lack of knowledge, maybe a lack of understanding. And I get that, but you can just, again, following your dreams, following what you're meant to do, the things that really move you. the things that make you grow. Growing equals happiness. When you're growing, when you're getting out of your comfort zone and you're doing the things that you really, really love to do, people are going to follow that. People are going to want to follow you because of who you're becoming and what you're doing for other people, not just because you post a beautiful selfie and you look hot or you look handsome. Okay, what's behind that mask? What's behind that persona? Is that someone that really wants to change the world? Is that someone that wants to change themselves? Is that someone that really does love themselves? Or are they spending way too much time on the filters? Are they spending way too much time trying to portray something that they're really not? I remember in 2008, a big thing happened for me. And I'll kind of end with this. I asked to give a 6-minute speech at a national convention. It was 20,000 it was crazy. It was things like 15 or 20,000 people in attendance. This was my first time I got on that kind of stage. Now, I think it was like 2007 or 2008. And after 3 years of studying and replicating and coveting the impact other leaders had on people, I knew it was going to be the opportunity of a lifetime. And I think it was like 5 minutes. I was supposed to sharing my story. I wanted to do it a justice and thought long and hard about what I wanted to talk about. I went through a ton of different themes and even more uplifting anecdotes. As the convention date got closer, I had a lingering thought that never went away. What if I just shared my own story? Not the shiny version, but the one where, when my confidence and finances were down the drain and I kept on going. I didn't give up. I didn't quit when I was homeless, when I had no car, and I started my business completely from scratch with no money, literally negative in my bank account. The one about my vulnerabilities, the lowest points, even if they weren't as dramatic as the other speakers. What if my strength came from being average? And besides my height, which is not, because I'm 6'6", if people can only take what we give them, what if I gave them the truth? These were my thoughts that I was having. So that's exactly what I did. I got a standing ovation. It was a turning point for me. Being insecure with who I was led to building a persona instead of building myself. I was so concerned with what people thought of me that it stalled me from growing into who I was meant to be. When you're not confident in who you are, you try to manipulate who you can be, which is draining and in a definitely unwinnable battle, in which I still fight, okay? All the time. And I know you probably do too. So let's choose to own exactly who we are and put it out there with no apologies. Let's get out of our own way and dispel the myth that we have a glorified montage of a life. Let's prefer to be rejected for who we are rather than love for who we pretend to be. I'm going to say that one more time. Let's prefer to be rejected for who we are rather than love for who we pretend to be. Let's keep each other accountable, shall we? So think about this. In the next 5 days, take time to share with your close friends and family something they may not know about you, something that is authentically you, something that lets them get to know the real you even more. Start sharing your story. Start sharing your true struggles. Start sharing the things that you really are dealing with and how you are overcoming, and maybe you are asking for or need to ask more advice or need to ask for help more. I think a lot of people have such a hard time nowadays asking for help because they think people are too busy for them. They think it just costs so much money. Ask for help. Of course, there's ways that you can hire coaches. I coach people one-on-one. I do group coaching. I have a whole program of finding your message and identifying who you really are and how to share your message with being authentic and getting vulnerable and all of your failures and all of your fears and how you can eventually even monetize that if you want to and turn it into a business. Because what you've gone through is very, it can be very unique from how you've reacted to it too. And I think we all are human beings and we all have our story, but I think how we react when times are tough and if we're real and authentic and we really share that, I really believe that people will respect us more and not trying to hide things or make people think like we're something that we really are not. And we've all seen movies about that, and trying to get the girl, and the guy was trying to be cool, and or try to have a persona of someone else when the girl just really would have fell in love with the person if they just were themselves, if they just were their funny self, and maybe they weren't as good looking as the other guys. And again, there's just so many dozens of movies I've seen with this message, and it definitely resonates with me because I think we've all been there. We've all wanted to be this guy or this girl and look this way or dressed a certain way, and maybe we didn't have the resources to have that car, and maybe we had a beat up car, or maybe we didn't have the house that was the cool apartment or the cool house, whatever. But we have these things like our personality, our strengths. We also have our weaknesses, and sometimes our flaws are attractive. Sometimes the things that we do are attractive, that maybe we think that, oh, how can anyone be attracted to that? But maybe you're just, I don't know. So I would just say, like, start being yourself. Start really falling in love with who you really are and start portraying that to the world. And I think you win the battle of you versus your persona, okay? So thanks so much, guys, for listening. Again, take 30 seconds to share this podcast, subscribe to the podcast. It's not out there, it's in you. Definitely rate this, hopefully 5-star. If this resonated with you, if you like this content, definitely listen to the other episodes, share it. I'm excited to continue to bring you great content each and every week. And again, thank you so much for your time and listening today.